anyone, and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney, where we are in the middle of court for Sazeki's trial. I got through the first witness, jury, summation examination thing. I say that because at least one of them seems to have been part of the crime, probably more of them as bystanders. Seriously, who is picking these juries? But slightly messy start to this episode aside, we're on to the first witnesses, so here we go. Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Constable Rolly Beats, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. Mood. And I'm Mrs. Beat. Patricia's my name. I'm proud to say that I'm this young town hero's wife. What's the story here? Well, in truth, we've not been married long. In fact, we celebrated our first anniversary only the other day. No, it was your husband I was asking about. He seems tired. Hardly surprising. Whilst being an honourable occupation, patrolling the beat is the most demanding work in the world. Oh, really? I'm sure I've heard that before, actually. Indeed, apart from rare days off, our gallant officers trudge some 20 miles a day, you know. They patrol boarding houses and pubs, collect taxes, survey the streets, check that all meters are reading true. And they're responsible for keeping the streets clean and lighting and extinguishing our streetlights. So not much, then. There were a number of items on that list that don't sound much like policing duties at all. I wouldn't just be falling asleep on my feet, I'd have collapsed long ago. Yeah, you and me both. But it goes without saying that a policeman's primary duty is the apprehension of criminals. Even when he's off duty, a constable is expected to investigate and resolve any crimes on his beat. For the London Bobby is a man of honour. And a man of slumber. On the day in question, this man and his wife were walking down Briar Road in the opposite direction, and they witnessed the incident as it occurred. Is that not correct, Mr. and Mrs. Beat? That's right, sir. Isn't it, Rolly? Constable Rolly Beat, sir. Nothing to report on the streets, sir. What a great witness he's going to be. Very good. I'd like to hear your formal testimonies now, please. You will tell the court exactly what you saw on the afternoon of the incident. Yes, sir. It was our wedding anniversary, and Rolly was taking me out for a meal. There was no time to change after work. Anyway, two silhouettes appeared out of the fog on the pavement in front of us. All of a sudden, one of them just collapsed on the floor. Then the other scattered something before running off. We ran straight over, of course, and then went for help at a nearby police box. It was definitely that Japanese man in the dock. Rolly and I both saw him as clear as day. Apart from the fog, you mean? Well, this is extremely compelling testimony, I must say. Oh dear, this policeman and his wife are claiming to have positively identified Mr. Natsume at the scene. If their testimony is true, the alternative course of events that you established in the summation examination will be quashed. It's death knell, in fact, because that alternative was never viable in the first place. What an unfortunate bit chancing, and on your wedding anniversary too. Oh, I know, but I still managed to go out for the evening with my man. I thank the Lord for that. Gosh, the life of a London Bobby sounds very hard indeed. Indeed, however. This cross-examination will be over in minutes. You may well have time to rest this afternoon. What do you mean by that? My learned friend, the witnesses saw the face of the man fleeing the scene. They are now testifying under oath that it was without doubt the accused, Mr. Sasaki Natsume. And one of these witnesses is a policeman, no less. So you appreciate the gravity of the situation, I'm sure. Except that the man's so tired, his wife has to do all the talking. Enough preamble. Counsel for the defence, commence the cross-examination, please. Yes, my lord.
Hold it!
No time to change after work, you say? Are you also a member of the police, Mrs. Beat? Oh no, sadly not. It's a job for strapping young men only. Women, children and the elderly can't even apply. Well, I think you can probably see why children and the elderly can't do the job, can't you? I think Crowley looks ever so handsome in his uniform. It suits you down to the ground, doesn't it, darling? What? I just finished my beat. Pat and I were heading back to the station. I was actually planning on getting changed there. Is he talking in his sleep? This is creepy. Oh no, Rolly, I much prefer you in uniform. Sometimes I don't recognise you when I see you in plain clothes. That's not alarming at all. Oh dear, that doesn't seem healthy. Kindly dear, to the point. You were going for a meal after you had finished your beat for the day, correct? That's right, sir, yes. Although I was fit to drop, to be honest, after spending the whole day on my feet. But policing is my life, sir. As long as I'm the proud owner of this, I'll serve my city and my queen to the end. What's that now? My warrant card, sir. Proof that I'm a London copper. As the noble founding principles of the force written on it as a reminder to all us policemen of our sworn duty to patrol the streets of London town and uphold the peace of the common man. Sir, and for such a noble cause I cover 20 miles every day without fail and without a grumble. Because I know that the plodding of my boots is all Londoners need to hear to feel safe and secure. Except for the woman who literally got stabbed across the road from you, I'm certain. So, fighting crime doesn't appear to come into it, then. But sir, just on that one particular day, I was looking forward to celebrating my wedding anniversary. Mrs. Beat puts up with a lot being married to a body like me. I wanted to show my dear wife how much I care. Oh, Pat. Oh, Rolly. Well, these two are unbearable. Oh, what a charming couple. Their young love is such a joy to behold. If a little over the top, perhaps. And then, kindly describe what happened next.
Hold it!
Two silhouettes. That's right, they were coming towards us, walking up Briar Road in the opposite direction. There was a rather plump figure followed by a scrawny, thin-looking man. That does sound exactly like the victim as pictured in this print, and like Mr. Natsume. Yes, unfortunately it does. And you're certain that at the time there was nobody else nearby? Oh yes, quite certain. It was dark, but there were streetlights on Briar Road, you see. There was nobody else around at all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. Of course, there was a light fog on the ground. But Briar Road is dead straight and you can see a fairly long way down the pavement. And then there's the street lighting as well. I didn't see any other pedestrians. Before sleep takes a firm hold, your answer please, Mr. Beat. Are you quite sure of what you've just said? Yes, sir. As a copper who spends all day every day keeping watch on the streets, I'd swear to it, sir. I'm as sure as my love for Patricia is true. Wow, I'm tired already. They're still maintaining there was no one else around other than the victim and the attacker. It's starting to seem like that must be how it really happened. It's beginning to seem like there's nowhere to run. Well, that didn't stop Mr. Natsume, did it? He fled the scene all too convincingly. Thank you. I believe we have a reasonably clear idea of the situation just before the incident now. What happened in the crucial moments that followed?
Hold it!
Scattered something. What do you mean by that? Oh, well, I couldn't quite make out what it was at the time. But then we got closer, we realised what it was. Didn't we, darling? What? Ah yes, that's right. It was some old books. I see, old books. Yes, sir. The culprit had dropped a number of them all around where the victim lay on the pavement. Indeed, as clearly pictured in this photographic print. Still on the yawning, okay. That rotten Japanese man did that when he did the deed.
Hold it!
Let's not forget that it remains to be established that the defendant was indeed the attacker. But we saw him. It was the man in the dock without question, sir. The moustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Everything! Any more insults you want to throw in? That's right, he looked down at that poor defenseless woman with those terrifying, intense eyes. And then suddenly threw his books onto the pavement and ran away. I see. This is tough. They seem as though they're telling the truth here. May I remind the court that this unambiguous testimony comes from a policeman and his wife. Now please, continue. Yes, sir.
Hold it!
If I pause awkwardly, assume I'm yawning or drinking. Was it your husband who went to fetch help? No, I went. I may not be a police officer myself, but I am the proud wife of one after all. Isn't that right, my darling? What? Ah, yes, that's right. I asked Mrs. Beat to go. I was off duty by that point. But a Bobby's never truly off duty, of course, so I felt obliged to stay and guard the scene. Very laudable, Mr. Beat. Preserving the scene of a crime is a task of considerable importance. That's why I sent Patricia, you see. I told her where to find the right police box. Forgive my ignorance, but what do you mean exactly by the right police box? Depends on a crime's location, you see, as who deals with it. Where the woman was stabbed wasn't actually on my beat. So I told Patricia the way to the police box for the beat that the incident fell under so she could go and report it. I ran there as quickly as I could and asked for help from the Bobby on duty. There is nothing more potent than a young couple in love working together, you know. And thanks to your swift response, the case was quickly resolved. The actions of two model citizens. Oh please, you're making us blush. Isn't he, darling? Yes, sir. What Patricia said, sir. Let's move on, shall we?
Hold it!
But surely you wouldn't have been able to see his face by the light of the gas street lamps, would you? You absolutely could. Us Londoners have exceptional eyesight, I'll have you know. Right. The light from the street lamps was more than enough. And my husband already told you that the fog was only light, didn't he? Ah, yes, and what odd the fog? We're famous for it across the globe, I believe. But it's an absolute menace to those of us who have to live with it, of course. Oh, it is. When it's thick, you can't even see the hand at the end of your own arm. Yes, all right, I take your point. Now, could you stop shaking your husband about? The constant fog makes our eyes very sharp, you see. That's why we can tell you for sure and certain that it was that little Japanese man we saw. Can't we, darling? What? Ah, yes. It was the accused and no mistake. The moustache, the hunched back, the cat-like eyes, the taut mouth, the snub nose. Unmistakable, sir. As far as this couple's testimony is concerned, there can't be any question. It was Saseki-san they saw running away from the scene of the crime. So that's it, is it? That's their entire testimony? What do you think, Mr. Naruhodo? Well, I hate to admit it, but on hearing the testimony, it really does seem as though Mr. and Mrs. Beats saw what they say they saw. Mr. Natsume running away from the scene on Briar Road that day. Yes, I feel the same. So if that's true, where does it leave us? The members of the jury are sure to call for a guilty verdict after this testimony. Oh no, then what do we do? If Kazuma-sama were here... What are you trying to say? I think he would try and find a contradiction somewhere else within their testimony. What do you mean, somewhere else? Their statement about seeing Mr. Natsume is unequivocal. Calling that into question won't help. But if you could identify some other part of their testimony which appears to contradict the facts, you might be able to discredit them, to make the jury doubt if the pair's memory of the day is accurate. Oh, right. But simply we must focus on finding a discrepancy in these statements somewhere. If we don't, I'm afraid the trial may reach an early and unfavourable conclusion. Ugh, why do I always seem to be so up against it? Mr. Lawyer, sir, can I ask you something? Oh, yes, of course, what is it? Hopefully this is helpful, because I couldn't see anything in there. Well, you keep asking us all these questions about everything we've told you, so... It seems like you don't believe our testimony. Is that right? Is it? Well, out with it! What? No, oh no, it's really not that at all. My husband's a policeman, remember? And I know what I saw. I remember every last detail. Everything. Like... Oh, I know. What about the books the man dropped? I could tell you the names of every single one I could. Every single one! Yes, please do that, because we have a receipt for what he bought. You dare to question how reliable my testimony is? That will do, Mrs. Beat. No, it won't do at all. That Japanese lawyer has no idea what I'm capable of. Even if I decide to forgive him for insulting us, don't think for a minute that Rowley will. I really didn't mean to cause offence. Please put your husband's fists down. But perhaps you would like the opportunity to supplement your testimony, Mrs. Beat. Might that appease you? Oh, thank you, my lord. That would settle things nicely. Wouldn't it, darling? I can even tell you... Yeah, I don't need to...
Hold it!
Let's see what she says. Yes, we know that there were books dropped at the scene of the crime, as you say. Those purchased by the accused at the nearby second-hand bookshop on the day in question. After I'd been to the police box for help, I decided to have a good look over the area for good measure. I am a proud policeman's wife, after all. I did it for Rowley. And what was your husband doing at the time? Oh, he was lying face down in the snow, getting some well-deserved rest. Wow. Great police work there, Rowley. He works ever so hard, you know. Ever so hard, don't you, my darling? Interesting way of guarding the scene of the crime. Well, Mrs. Beat, seeing as you've regaled the court with tales of your powers of recollection, would you be so kind as to recount the titles of the books you observed at the scene? I'd be happy to. Now, are you all listening? There was The Picture of Monsieur Somebody or Other, and What's It Yearnings? The Picture of Monsieur Someone or Other is correct, I think. And Canterbury Yearnings, okay. So at least 2 of them seem correct so far. Then there was, a meal for someone, and the last one was definitely The Thingamy Something. Okay, so there's an extra book. So she's right about the 3 that were there, but there's a random extra. You see? Yes, I see there are 1 or 2 holes in your memory. Oh well, they're along those lines, I'm quite sure. There were indeed books found at the scene with titles along those lines, as you put it. Well, what did I tell you? So I think it's very mean the way you've been implying that my testimony can't be trusted. Don't you agree, darling? Anyone who upsets my Patricia will have me to answer to. That escalated quickly. Maybe remove the firearm from the sleepy man? Terrifying. Yes, she really is. So that's it, is it? Okay, so we're doing this again. So the only contradiction I've noticed is the extra book, but I don't know where I'd actually present that. Is the issue? Oh, here we go. I could even tell you the names of the 4 books he dropped at the scene. There were only 3.
Objection!
So, you're saying that there were 4 books? That's right, I remember all of them. The Picture of Monsieur Somebody, What's It Yearnings, A Meal for Someone, and The Thingamy Something. I'm sorry, Mrs. Beat. But there is a fundamental flaw in that statement of yours. Oh no! What? What flaw? Simply that, at the scene of the crime, there were only 3 books, not 4. What? This is the receipt from the bookshop where the defendant bought his books. Your books? Yes, and it details Mr. Natsume's purchases that day. But as you can see, only 3 books are listed. Only 3? But no, that can't be. I remember seeing them. There were 4 books, I tell you. 4 dirty old books. Oh really? Have a good look at this photographic print of the scene of the crime. As you can clearly see from this evidence as well, there were only 3 books. So were they on the other road as well? I will have to laugh if that's the case. But I just don't believe it. I saw them there, I swear it. I saw them. No, madam, I'm afraid your powers of observation cannot be relied upon. So it cannot be denied that though you say it was the defendant you saw, you could very well be mistaken. Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! Oh no! No!
Objection!
It's plainly evident that it is your powers of deduction that cannot be relied upon, my learned friend. What? What cannot be denied is that these 2 witnesses saw the accused running from the scene. A fact that you know very well you have no hope of disproving. So you've striven to avert attention from that by dint of some inconsequential discrepancies. Would that be fair? Ugh, he sees right through me. But your plan has somewhat recoiled against you. What are you talking about? It's quite simple. Let me explain with the toast. To the policeman's wife and her entirely accurate testimony. In every respect. Oh! You see, the matter is not up for debate. Hold on, I hear suspicious cat noises. Okay, just Lonku Fire Emblems using my radiator as a scratching post again. Love that. At the scene on Briar Road, a total of 4 books were most definitely found.
Objection!
But what about the photographic print? There's one of them behind her. It only shows 3 books. Quite right. Only 3 can be seen in that print. That print? You mean to say... Allow me to present another, one that shows the victim's hand. I don't believe it. Also, The Lion's Pride, that was the book that Mr. Garrideb said was his favourite one that had got burnt. It's the 4th book. As you will observe. The 4th book was hidden from view in the original print by the victim's torso. No. No! I wonder if there are multiple trial days in this game, or if it's all just getting it over with. That'll be very interesting to see. Order. There, you see? Look at that! Look! Yes. It's just like I said, isn't it, my darling? Yes, sir. Patricia's always right, sir. Let us study the receipt for the books purchased by the accused on the day in question. Mrs. Beat, the titles once again, if you please. Oh yes, of course. The picture of Monsieur somebody or other. The picture of Monsieur Lecoq. What's it, yearnings? Canterbury yearnings. A meal for someone. A meal for Gaboriau, in fact. As the court has just heard, the witness remembers the book titles flawlessly, save for a few minor details. So you mean flawlessly, save for a few flaws. Good to know. Mrs. Beat's powers of recollection can only be described as exceptional. Way to suck up to the witness. Did you hear that, Rowley? The gentleman paid me a compliment. Yes, sir. Flawless, sir. Patricia is flawless. But there are only 3 books on the receipt, and Mrs. Beat mentioned 4. There's nothing surprising about that. Clearly the 4th book is that which is shown in this photographic print. I'm sorry, counsel, but does that not seem odd? Why should the 4th book be omitted from the receipt? It's not odd at all, my lord. As the photograph clearly shows, the 4th book was found in the victim's clutches. In other words, it belongs to the victim. The victim was holding her own book. I wonder, what became of that 4th book? Oh, is it actually missing? If so, I wonder if the Garridebs took it because he lost the copy of his. Obviously, it wasn't overlooked by the investigating officers at Scotland Yard. I have it here as evidence. Is it going to be burned? You'll submit that in the aforementioned photographic print to the court, please, counsel. My pleasure, my lord. Okay. Let's take a look at those. Oh, yep. There it be. Oh, look at this. The book has been badly burnt. You're right. You'd never be able to read it in this state, especially not the latter pages. What a terrible waste. Judging from the scorched edges of the paper, I think the damage must have occurred very recently. A book recently damaged by fire. Why does that seem to raise a red flag with me? Oh, I wonder. How about we get hecking juror number 4, or whichever one she is, to have a look at it. Not bitter at all. The prosecution rests. I have nothing further to add. What? You seem surprised, my learned friend. But your resistance until now has been in vain. Entertaining, yes, but futile. The spurious longer route to the accursed lodgings that you tried to establish in your summation examination, and the attempted discrediting of the witness's powers of recollection in your cross-examination. Futile? I walked right into this, didn't I? You see, everything we've said is true. Isn't that right, my darling? Yes, Pat. Marry me, Pat. I think she already did, mate. So, perhaps the ladies and gentlemen of the jury would like to reconsider their positions. Should the court waste any more time on this travesty? Or is it a decision you have to make all too apparent already? Sorry, I'm fidgeting with the thing and I just catapulted it across my desk. Hopefully that did not catch on the microphone. What is it with today and being weirdly loud? You have heard all of the witnesses and seen all of the evidence. This trial has run its course. Mr. Naruhodo, I'm afraid we're in a terribly precarious position. I know, but if I fight back in the wrong way now, I could very well just make matters worse. Think, Rinosuke, think. What do you do now? Raise an objection, I guess.
Objection!
I'm not done yet. No, my learned friend, it's over. That last cross-examination was your final chance to establish a credible defense, and you failed. The die has been cast. There is no more room for debate. Well, it might be over as far as you're concerned, but... Ugh, I can't think of what to say. If I may, Lord Van Zieks, it seems somewhat boorish to close down the debate at this point. Your insignificant little Eastern Isle must be a lawless hole indeed. For a lowly judicial assistant to have the audacity to intervene at a moment like this. Oh! I'll leave Susato alone. I am, to my shame, still a very inexperienced lawyer. So you will have to forgive me, but I consider my assistant's advice essential and her opinions invaluable. Mr. Naruhodo! One of this land's great guiding principles is tolerance. Since hecking when? Great Britain, guiding principle is tolerance. God, I wish. Oh, I hate this game sometimes. Anyway, minor freak out over the supposed tolerance level of Britain. The court will hear you, madam. Go ahead, Mr. Zato, please. Very well. Pray, what insight can you give us? What have we all overlooked in this matter that you see to pursue further? Well, the court has been presented with new evidence, but only after the last cross-examination finished. I see. And you believe that this new evidence warrants further examination, do you? Mr. Naruhodo, what do you think? It's just possible that this new evidence might be the decisive proof we've been waiting for. The judge is sure to ask the members of the jury to announce their leanings in a moment. And of course, he's sure to ask you to explain what the critical piece of evidence is and why. I know I'm swapping out words here. I've noticed in editing I've done it before, which is alarming. But that's just how my brain is doing. So we must take this opportunity to examine the newly presented evidence as thoroughly as possible. I already know, mate. Yes, I understand, and thank you, Mrs. Zato. Again, I've already known since they first said the title of the book. It is weird how this game seems to be either so out there you would never notice it, or so obvious you noticed it since the moment it was brought up but can't answer until an hour later. This is it. Susato-san has managed to win us one last chance here. I can't let it go to waste. The defense wishes to present evidence, my lord. Very well. The defense may present one further piece of evidence. Evidence that apparently offers a profound insight into this case and has hitherto been overlooked. This one.
Take that!
The evidence in question is what we can see from the newly presented photographic print of the crime scene. The fourth book found in the victim's hand.
Objection!
We have already discussed the fourth book at length. Other than it being in the victim's grasp at the time of the incident, no significance has been attached to it. Pursuing the matter further would be a flagrant waste of the court's time, as you well know. Ugh. Yes, I'm afraid, counsel, I must concur with the prosecution on this matter. When I afforded you this opportunity, you led the court to believe that the evidence in question contained a hitherto undiscovered clue. So I must insist that you elaborate, counsel. You will identify this clue at once. Do I make myself clear? Oh, yes, my lord. It's, Mr. Naruhodo. I believe the prosecution is trying to avoid a thorough examination of the evidence. Which means you may very well be on the right track. Yes, I think you might be right. Okay, so he is along the lines of conceal the evidence of possible prosecutors. He's not like a Clavier Gavin of, who cares what the evidence does for my whim record, let's just find the truth. Although, I guess in Van Zieks' case, if he finds them guilty, they just go to prison and or die. But if he finds them innocent, they also randomly die. So finding them guilty might be easier for his mental state. Precisely where is the vital clue to this case, which this fourth book conceals?
Got it!
I would ask the courts to observe the back of the book in question. The back? What do you... Good gracious. It's been burned to a crisp. So we have to ask ourselves, why was the victim clutching what is clearly an unreadable book? It is undeniably an extremely unnatural thing for her to have been doing.
Objection!
Unnatural, you say? And what of it, my friend? Oh. Were I to concede the point, if it bears no relation to the case, there is nothing to discuss. So, should you wish to assert that this fire damage is some veiled clue as to what happened that day? Pray do enlighten us all. What truth does this charred book hide? I'm wondering if... Okay, so the jurors aren't in here, but Joan Garadeb is. Good to know, because I suspect we're about to present her. A charred book. There is just one possibility here, which I can't quite bring myself to rule out. It's an outside chance, certainly, but worth a try. Alright, I'll explain my theory. Don't keep us waiting any longer then, counsel. Explain this theory of yours. What are you suggesting that you can ascertain from the fire damage this sorry tome has suffered? Its owner. My lord, the burn on the back of this book reveals a startling truth. About the book's owner. I beg your pardon. But we already know who the book belongs to. The victim was gripping it in her hand as she fell to the floor, after all. It's obviously hers. The question of how this book came to be in the victim's hand has yet to be answered. However, as to the question of who the book really belongs to and where it originated, the defence has very credible answers. Good gracious, how can you possibly? Very well, I'll play along with this futile attempt to delay your inevitable demise. But do remember, the members of the jury may well burn you if your little gamble goes awry. Counsel, the defence's response here is very likely to influence the final outcome of this trial. So tell the court, who do you claim is the owner of this burnt book? Ooh, which one of them do I present, I wonder? I'm gonna try him first, because it is technically his book.
Take that!
And the music stopped, so... The answer is that the book belongs to the couple who own the house where the defendant has his lodgings. A certain Mr. and Mrs. Garadeb. The landlords. And whether this is some extraordinary coincidence or some kind of fate at work, I don't know, but... Of all the people in London, one of the 6 chosen for jury duty in this courtroom today is none other than Mrs. Garadeb herself. Oh my goodness! Me? I think you must be mistaken, sir. I'm not Mr. Garadeb's wife, I'm his maid. Things would be so much easier if you would just drop the pretense. Alright then, how about a simple question for you? Have you ever seen this book in Mr. Garrideb's house? I would never presume to know all the books he keeps, sir.
Objection!
This is outlandish behaviour. This woman is the accused's landlady, you say? Yes, which is why I've been complaining about the jury so hecking much. You implicate this hard-working member of the public. You besmirch her without a shred of evidence. Your actions are unforgivable.
Objection!
This is not mere conjecture. The defence happens to know that on the day in question, at almost exactly the same time as the victim was stabbed on the pavement below, another incident was taking place in the room on the top floor of Mr. and Mrs. Garrideb's house. Good lord, what sort of incident, counsel? A fire, my lord. Afraid to say it was. Happened in the blink of an eye, you know. The whole place filled with smoke. Couldn't see a bally thing. Didn't take long for the fire to spread, of course. The bally furniture started going up as well. Worst of it is, I lost my favourite, a book called The Lion's Pride. Oh, that's a face. The Lion's Pride. By Jove, the very same title is the subject of this debate. Oh dearie me.
Objection!
This is risible. All you've told the court is that a book by the same name was involved in a fire. In which case, it would be reasonable to assume that it was burned to ashes. And entirely unreasonable to infer that it magically removed itself to the scene of the crime. Perhaps it would make more sense if I told you that the cause of the fire was marital discord. Without going into details, it appears that Mrs. Garrideb was considerably enraged. Apparently she continued to attack Mr. Garrideb even amid the flames. Oh, how awful! I can't even imagine being so horrid to the one you love. Can you, Rowley? Absolutely not, sir. My Patricia would never raise a finger against me, sir. And all my favourite old novels in that case. But as soon as the fire got hold of them, that was it. Whoosh, up in smoke. And the wife started hurling things at me. That was I, back up against the window under heavy enemy fire, and sundry books coming 10 to the dozen. The man had his back up against the window, and he had burning books thrown at him. Goodness gracious, are you suggesting that the book was thrown through a window and landed coincidentally at the scene of the crime?
Objection!
No. A thorough investigation of the surrounding area was conducted the very evening of the incident. There is no report of the Garrideb's window pane being broken. That's quite true. We also saw no sign of broken glass when we visited the Garrideb household. But it's not conceivable that is it not conceivable that the window was open at the time and not even remotely? Let's not forget the season and the chilling weather that accompanies it. Yeah, but again, the house was on fire. I think it's reasonable to say it was warm in there at the time. No Londoner would ever leave a window open in the middle of winter. Ah. Does the defence postulate the scenario in all seriousness, counsel? Do you earnestly claim that the book found at the scene was a flaming projectile thrown by Mr. Garrideb's wife? Sure, why not? I believe it's a possibility, my lord. That's quite enough. Mrs. Garrideb? Yep. Well, I hope that everyone can see for what you are now, you little foreign trickster. You call yourself a lawyer, but you're just a coward. A mean coward. Really? Claiming to start little tiffs set the whole neighbourhood alight. Honestly? Implying that I'm merely posing as a maid for appearance's sake. How could you? It's nothing to do with this beastly case, not any of it. All you've done is sully our family's name. No, I assure you that was never my intention. Dragging an upstanding citizen's name through the mud simply to divert attention from your failing defence. I should box your ears, that's what I should do. It's utterly unforgivable. Too right. Here we go. How long have we sat here now, listening to this guy spouting out his fancy foreign theories? But think about it. At the end of the day, the only person who could possibly have stabbed the victim is that little hunchback with the moustache, and he ran away from the scene too. I do declare you're right. It's true. Yes, what did I tell you? Makes sense to me. Sorry, what's that? Well, it would appear that the ladies and gentlemen of the jury are once again in full agreement. What is your position, Lord Van Zieks? In truth, my lord, I feel these have been unnecessarily protracted proceedings. But then one must always exercise patience in order to savour the best vintage. No, wait! That the mystery of the fourth book still hasn't been... Leg slam! If books are your predilection, my learned friend, study them on your own time. It's so stylish. Undeniably stupid, but very stylish. What, no, forgive the discourtesy this time. Ahem, in that case, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you will now state your individual decisions regarding the defence's culpability for the court to hear.
Guilty!
Guilty.
Oh, we're doing this again.
Guilty.
Guilty. Guilty.
Guilty!
Do we get another summation? That'd be wild. Thank you for that unambiguous response. That's twice now. It's over. Mr. Naruhodo, don't give up. Mrs. Zato, have you forgotten? The battle isn't over yet. You're not suggesting. Of course, the defense has the right to another summation examination at this point. Oh boy. You can still convince the jurors to change their minds. You have one more chance. My lord. Here we go again. Huff. You believe you still have tricks up your sleeve. I don't intend to trick anybody. I intend to uncover the truth. There's no time to be downcast. As long as there's a chance, I have to stay strong and determined. Woohoo! Oh, now we get it to be continued. Good grief. Well, I am going to take a quick break, because I need another drink, and my voice is slightly going, so I will see you in a minute. Okay, here we go. I have considered the Defence Counsel's request for a further summation examination of the jury, and I have determined that the court must uphold the defence's judicial rights to this procedure. So, Counsel, you'll now proceed with your second summation examination. I presume the jury is ready, Mr. Foreman. We are, my lord. Very good. In that case, I must ask each of you now to state clearly and concisely for the court the grounds on which you find the defendant guilty of this crime. Well, I did the last section yesterday, so let's see how much I remember of why they found him guilty. The accused left behind evidence at the scene, didn't he? Those 3 books of his. If there was some novel alternative explanation about how the victim was stabbed, I might reconsider. Even if the woman was throwing books, it can't be related to this crime if the window was closed, can it? Deary me, it was only a little book. Hardly life-threatening, even with a direct hit. Look, I just want to get this over with. If I don't bring home some pay tonight, I'll be in a tidy bit of trouble. Come to think of it, we had a fire at home a while ago. It gave me the sneezes. Right, none of that seemed helpful. Time to press. Yes, considerably more tangible arguments from more members of the jury this time around, it seems. I mean, not from all of them, but okay. With one notable exception, of course. My learned student friend was unable to find fault in the previous witness testimony. So the court must accept the fact that it was indeed the accused seen fleeing from the scene. And moreover, no one else was even at the scene to commit the crime. Well, if the eyewitnesses are correct, it would seem as if the conclusion is somewhat set in stone. I fail to see how it can be argued any other way. That means, I'm afraid, that during the summation examination, it's essential that you establish some other tangible explanation for the facts. But how? What would even constitute a tangible explanation here? Isn't it obvious? Who stabbed the woman, and how? Those two details are all you need to provide. Simply give us a name and a method by which the attack was conducted. And there I was thinking this might be hard. But Mr. Naruhodo, you have to do it. Otherwise this really will be where the trial ends. Ugh, no pressure then. That's quite enough preamble. Proceed with the summation examination, please. I presume you're prepared, counsel. Okay, let's say we are. Oh yes, my lord. Alright, Rinosuke, focus your mind now. Clearly the key to the summation examination is going to be juror number 4, the maid, or should I say Mrs. Garadab. We have a book that disappeared from the Garadab's house on the evening of the incident, and the 4th book found in the victim's hand. There must be a way to link the two. It would be pretty funny if the murderer turned out to be one of the jurors. Yes, that's what we have to find. Using every technique I've learned in my short career so far, whatever it takes. Don't forget to keep an eye on Mrs. Garadab and how she reacts, even to the things other people say. Okay, that's actually a pretty good hint, thank you. Wrong button.
Hold it!
But as we now know, there were 4 books, not 3. Well, what difference does it make? There's every possibility that the 4th book, in fact, belongs to the defendant's landlord. Yes, that's the part I have a problem with. Sorry? Well, at the point the woman was stabbed, this landlord fellow was at home, wasn't he? Enjoying a fiery scrap with his wife or something, you said. That's not exactly how I put it, no. Well, anyway, the point is, the fellow and his wife were somewhere else when it happened. I think that's what you call a strong alibi. So it couldn't have been the landlord who did it, which only leaves the fellow. Honestly, I can't see what all this palaver's about. It's a done deal, isn't it? I suppose it is, since I've nothing witty left to say. So, you might be willing to change your decision, you mean? Oh my, such delight on your face, but I'm afraid I shan't be swayed by emotion. Despite what you may think of me, I am a very modern, metropolitan, and rational woman. That's great. If one reads the morning papers, it's all forgotten by tea time, isn't it? So why read them in the first place? You see, modern, metropolitan, and rational thinking, wouldn't you say? And not at all extreme. As I see it, an overwhelmingly suspicious Japanese man has been implicated by overwhelmingly strong testimony. So despite 1 or 2 minor puzzlements, I do declare that the man is overwhelmingly guilty. Modern, metropolitan, and rational logic, wouldn't you say? Overwhelmingly. But us modern gals are always delighted to embrace new fads, you know. So I'd be only too happy to consider an exciting new theory if you could come up with one. I'd be happy to do that too, if only I could. Let's do our very best not to disappoint the modern and metropolitan young lady. Right. I'm glad you omitted rational there.
Hold it!
What about the possibility that the window was open? What about it? I mean, there's just no way it could have been. How can you be so sure? The prosecutor fellow over there said it earlier, didn't he? Winters in London are no joke. You don't want to invite that sort of cold indoors. So no, that window wasn't open. Us Londoners like sitting by the fire and staying warm, see? But you couldn't categorically state that the window wasn't open, could you? It just wasn't. They wouldn't have opened it. Now what's the point in even having windows, huh? Counsel, you will kindly refrain from childish bickering. Oh, sorry. Somehow I need to show it there's an undeniable possibility that the window was open. Because this young man isn't going to budge otherwise. Well, this ought to be fun.
Hold it!
But the little book was on fire at the time, was it not? With flames of love, I'll have you know. There's really no such thing as a loving incendiary bomb. Well, he brought it upon himself. It's playing with fire to betray a fiery love. Isn't it? Well, don't you agree? Oh, well, any kind of betrayal is certainly a bad thing, yes. But I think the argument might have risen out of your misunderstanding, Mrs. Garrideb. Never you mind that. The point is, we were just having a jovial little dispute, nothing more. Yes, nothing more jovial than setting things on fire. And I won't have any more of these suggestions that it was anything whatsoever to do with the crime. Right, well, we'll see about that. What about juror number 5? He doesn't seem to be turning a hair at Mrs. Garrideb's relentless onslaughts. It's almost as though he's used to it. What a gentle soul he is. So what do you have to say?
Hold it!
You just want to get this over with? How can you sit there and say something like that? A man's future is at stake here. Well, him and me both then, like I said before. What? I told you already, I'm a day labourer, aren't I? If I don't bring home some readies with me tonight, you'll find me floating face down in the Thames tomorrow morning. What? You heard me. My missus isn't one to mess about, you know. She can be fierce, believe you me. Another shining example of marital bliss, then. A situation like this cropped up the other day. It was, well, do you know, it's funny, but I can't quite remember. Sorry? It was too frightening, that's the thing. I must have blocked it out. Helpful. I wonder if Mr. Beach will ever be dragged into the Thames by his scarf. Don't even go there, Mr. Zato. There must be some way to jog his memory about this. I don't know what that would be. Let's see what this gets me first. Does that have anything to do with your decision about the defendant's culpability in this case? Sorry, what's that? You'll have to speak up, lad. Could you tell us more about that fire? It was last winter. My grandchildren baked me a lovely cake on my birthday. It had 75 candles on the top, it did. What a sight to behold it was. You put candles on a cake? Was it some kind of devil worship? Oh, I love that. My boss hates it when people cut... I work in a cake shop, for those of you who don't know. But my boss hates it when people put candles on the cake because she thinks it ruins them, so she would probably appreciate this. Of course not. It was an angel cake, to celebrate my birthday, obviously. It seems that's a common custom here in Great Britain, Mr. Naruhodo. Anyway, I mustered all my puff to blow them out. Only I must have blown wrong somehow. The flames didn't go out, but candles went flying all over the room. The furniture caught and everything went up. The whole place filled with smoke. Definitely sounds like devil worship to me. And by the sneezes, I presume you mean a cold, but how did you catch a cold from a fire? Is this because he opened the window? What a fiasco it was. The grandchildren, bless them, threw water over me as they tried to put out the flames. And then, because the whole room had filled up with smoke, of course, we had to open all the windows to clear it. There it is. The windows. The biting winter air rushed over me like the devil dancing on my grave, it did. I caught a terrible cold from it. It put me in hospital for a while. I won't forget that birthday in a hurry. Okay, so we know how to pit them. At least with him and the window guy. I knew it was devil worship all along. But something about this old man's story is playing on my mind for some reason. We need to demonstrate who, apart from Mr. Natsume, could have attacked the young woman on the street. As well as how he, or she, could have done it. Yes, but once again the jury's statements are full of personal prejudice. A lot of them seem convinced they're right, even in the face of logical arguments to the contrary. I think you're going to need to pit them against each other to force them to accept an alternative explanation. Yes. I don't necessarily need to find contradictions between their assertions, just a connection might do the trick. Alright, I'll see what I can do. If anything stands out, I'll go in for a strike. That's the spirit. So let's see what he says now. Yeah, this will be the one.
Objection!
These two jurors' statements clearly contradict one another. They do? How exactly, counsel? Don't point at me again. I told you it wasn't me. What's that you say? Speak up, lad, speak up. Juror number 3, do you see? Oh, me? See what, sir? Did you hear juror number 6's account of his birthday celebrations last year? It seems, despite being a Londoner, he once opened his windows in the middle of winter. Well, yes, of course, because it was an emergency. I mean, obviously, if the room was filled with smoke from a fire, then you'd be mad not to open the... Oh. Exactly. On the day in question, at the time of the incident, there was a fire in the Garadab household. And Mr. Garadab had the following to say about it. The whole place filled with smoke. Oh, my hat. Wow, that's a lot of tea. But,
Excuse me!
Juror number 4, do you have something to say about that? Mrs. Garadab. Oh, dearie me. What is the meaning of this? How dare you imply that I'm hiding who I really am? It's imperative that you confirm something for the court. So please, it's time to drop the pretense now. Well, what is it? When the fire started in your house that day, did you or your husband open the window? What? I beg your pardon? What are you insinuating? The room would have been thick with smoke after the carpet and bookcase caught fire as they did. In a situation like that, it's inconceivable that you wouldn't have opened the window. And what if we did? Oh, all right then. Yes, you're right. My husband was frantically trying to open the window. Which can't have been easy, since I continued to give him a justly deserved book battering. Even though your house was on fire. Oh, you never stop throwing until the anger subsides. It would be terribly bad for the nerves to do otherwise. Big yikes. Of course, I should have realised. That's a significant step forward, Mr. Naruhodo. You managed to establish that the window was open. You simply must have that added to Mrs. Garadab's formal statement. The window was open at the time, okay. I don't really know what to do next, though. So the window was open when the Garadabs were arguing that day. Yes, Mrs. Garadab has finally admitted to it, which is a very significant victory for the defence. I feel like the fog's starting to clear and an alternative explanation to this case is starting to show itself. Is it? The window could have been open when the woman was throwing books. I guess maybe we could try that with her? I assume this will just bring me the same discussion. Yeah.
Hold it!
At the point when the victim was attacked on Briar Road, we know there was a small house fire in the Garadab household on the opposite side of the street. Well, yes, it certainly seems that way. And on account of the smoke, I imagine they would have had the windows wide open in spite of the cold. We also know that Mrs. Garadab was throwing flaming books at her husband. Her husband, who was backed into a corner by the window due to his wife's frenzied attack. Yes, that's right. So there's definitely a chance that one of the books could have flown past the man and out of the window. Only what? Only I can't really see how it could have gone all the way over to the other side of the road, that's all. Ah. So I don't really see how I can change my decision, really. Oh, I see. That wasn't enough. What is it going to take to persuade these people?
Hold it!
The fourth book found at the scene of the crime shows very obvious signs of fire damage. And the title of the book is The Lion's Pride. The same title, in fact, as the book that Mr. Garrideb told us he had been reading. Well, I really couldn't say. On the day in question, did you or did you not throw at your husband a copy of The Lion's Pride that he had been reading? I did. Well, at least she's not lying, that makes a change. It was the first thing I could lay my hands on, so I hurled it straight at him. Now you come to mention it, yes. He was rather enjoying reading it, you're right. Why did you not reveal this information to the court from the outset? Because I couldn't, you insolent little man. I didn't remember. At times like that, you pick up and throw whatever you can lay your hands on as well, you know. I really don't. I barely noticed I was throwing a book, much less the title of it. Ah, we finally got you then.
Excuse me.
What is it, juror number 5? You know something? I've remembered what it was, that memory I'd blocked out. Ah. I was listening to what this granny was saying, brought it all flooding back. Who are you calling a granny, you cheeky devil? I'm Mrs. Garrideb, or the maid, I'll have you know. The man doesn't even flinch. Please tell me that's not because he's so used to being hit all the time. Yeah, what is it with this case and spousal abuse? Like, I don't like that. It was about 2 weeks ago now. I just got back home after work, like. I put my hand in my pocket for the wages I'd just earned that day, and I nearly died. There was a hole. Every last penny had dropped out. Oh dear, what a disaster. You haven't heard the half of it, boy. Oh? The wife was cutting up some chicken at the time. Oh, did she throw a knife? I could hardly get the words out, but I told her straight. I've lost the day's wages, love. Next thing I knew, the blade was whistling past my ear, stuck into the wall next to me it did, about an inch deep. No words, just terror. Also kind of a mood. I could smell it then, you know, that god-awful stench of the Thames. I was sure I was going to end up face down in the muddy banks that night, I can tell you. No, that's a real disaster, isn't it? I'll never use the word lightly again. Anyway, the point I'm trying to make is this. When women lose their rag, they'll throw anything at you. Knives, hatchets, hammers, you name it. I would like to politely disagree. Yeah, Mr. Naruhodo, you mustn't think that all women are so short-tempered and unrefined. No, I wasn't thinking that. Throwing household objects at people is, well, it's so uncivilized. At least attack with honor, using a bow or the like. What? Attack? Who are you going to attack? Never mind. Anyway, this man's words could be rather significant, I think. Alright, we'll come back to the bow and arrow thing later, if I dare. Okay, I'm going to try pitting you against you.
Objection.
Those two statements clearly have a deeply significant connection. Good grief, you mean they don't contradict each other? Explain, counsel, at once. Juror number 2, do you think perhaps that this could be one such novel alternative? Oh my, whatever do you mean? An alternative explanation as to how the victim was stabbed in the back. What are you talking about? We've demonstrated that the fourth book, The Lion's Pride, that was found at the scene of the crime, originated in Mr. Garrideb's room on the top floor of his house. Therefore, it's equally possible that some other object besides the book could have found its way from the Garrideb household to the street below. Don't yeet knives, everyone. That's the lesson from this episode. Eh? What's that now? After all, Mrs. Garrideb could have thrown any number of different objects at her husband. Isn't that right, juror number 4? What are you insinuating now, you little beanpole? I'm beginning to think that ever since the true origins of this book came to light, perhaps she's had a feeling this might be what happened. Now you listen here, you whatever. As the foreman of this jury, I demand a straight answer. You give us this yarn about some other object making its way out of the house, but what? What was it? Present the knife, I guess? I'm really taking a big gamble here. That was a bold accusation to make, but I haven't any real evidence to back it up. But I'm certain that at the very least this warrants further investigation. Alright, Mr. Foreman, I'll try to explain the defence's theory. The other object that found its way from the Garadab household to the scene of the crime was...
Take that!
Juror number 4, Mrs. Garadab. What? What now? I must apologise in advance for this. But I need you to confirm something else for the court. This knife. Have you ever seen this knife before? Ah! Good Lord, Counsel, what on earth are you doing? That's the weapon that was lodged into the victim's back, man. My lord, remember that when the victim was attacked, Mr. and Mrs. Garadab were in the throes of an argument. Mrs. Garadab was hurling anything she could at her husband, who'd been backed up against the window. A window that had been opened to clear the smoke, and through which a book sailed to land at the crime scene. You can't seriously believe that the book was found in the victim's grasp? Are you saying that it flew out of the window and across the street to land neatly in her hand? Huh, even my missus hasn't got a name like that. Yes, I admit, there are many details we don't yet understand. But that's the point. That's precisely why. We must not allow this trial to end. Not right now. Oh my! Mrs. Garadab, your answer, please. Have you seen this knife before or not? Oh, Oh. Great. Lost a juror. To be fair, she really shouldn't have been there anyway, but my lord. I wish to change my decision. I'm a woman of my word, after all. Thank you, madam. Yes, I agree. I certainly didn't see this coming, but... Good grief, he's helping us out. I just don't think it would be right for this trial to come to an end now with so many unanswered questions. That's a weird 180 for him, but okay. Mr. Foreman. I'd have to agree. Not that I think the granny did it, mind. Yes, you know what? I'm not quite happy about this at the moment either. All together now, ladies and gents. Woohoo! We did it! Oh, congratulations, Mr. Naruhodo. So, as a result of the defence's summation examination, a number of jurors' leanings have changed. 2 jurors called guilty against 4 now calling innocent. Accordingly, the opinion of this court is divided, and this trial will continue. And I think that I will actually leave this episode here, because I've been recording for just over an hour now. So we'll see where this is going to go next time. And until then, thank you for watching, and goodbye.